best to keep my emotions in check. We're talking about the Florida Gators, who are won. We did win. Wasn't an SEC opponent. Hell, wasn't even an FBS opponent. We played the Samford Bulldogs. Is that what they are? I think they're Bulldogs.
I think that's right.
Bulldog mascot. I'm guessing. It looks like a bulldog. It looks like a bulldog terrier. Whatever. We got into a shootout with them. Now, granted, I'm happy we scored 70 points. I didn't think we could do that, but it's an FCS school. The FCS school, we gave up 52 points after cutting our defensive coordinator. Grantham sitting at home like, ha ha, burger. What did I do? Tell him what I did against Bama. How many points I hold up against Bama? Okay, all right, yeah, you missed me now. And we were losing at one point in this game, Clint. We were losing. It's 42-35. And I can just tell you, the King's English did not fall on me during this game. I had to be honest. It was not refined language. It was a bit more crass. There was a lot of things thrown around my house before I left for the airport.
Right.
I apologized to my wife. I cleaned it up yesterday when I got home. I don't know. I thought Dan Mullen was safe, that this was just going to be an aberration year. I don't know, man. I don't know.
Hey, I'm with you. I said it 2 weeks ago, like, you are crazy if you even shape your mouth to say that Dan Mullen should be fired. But after watching these last 2 weeks, I think my man's seat's got to be hotter than a firecracker. There's no question about it. I love Dan Mullen. I still, to this day, I think right now that Florida should keep Dan Mullen. I have a hard time, in my opinion, doing better than Dan Mullen unless they've got that guy picked out and that guy's available. You're going to have a hard time really doing better than Dan Mullen, but there's no defending what we're watching now. I mean, it appears that, you start firing coaches and it's one thing to fire a coach, have an SEC opponent come in and beat you. It's another thing to fire a coach and have Samford come in and your guys look like they're not ready to play. They're not motivated. They're bringing zero juice. There's zero discipline. I mean, that is a major problem, and it's happened 2 weeks in a row with the Gators. And I think there's a good chance that Dan Mullen he better figure some things out here pretty quick this week, or he's going to have a tough time keeping his job. I mean, I'm curious. You're closer to that program than I am. I'm curious to know your thoughts on whether Dan's got a good grasp on it, or is that seat getting hot?
I look at it. I think the seat's getting hot, man. I think when you just look at some of the uncharacteristic things that was going on in that game, the poor tackling just continuing to rear its ugly head, DBs blowing coverages. There's no way that a guy by the name of Liam Welch should be in the conversation when you're talking about guys who had a big weekend. They got paid close to about probably $1 million, right, to take that trip down to Gainesville. So you paid them to take you out to the woodshed and give you everything that they could. And they gave it to you. Liam Welch just got on people's radar because of us. The boy threw for 400 yards. Like you had a stat line that rivals, what was played in that game we just talked about, Auburn and Mississippi State. Now, granted, you did throw the pick that kind of hurt you. Hell, Emory Jones. I was happy to see Emory Jones throw for 450 plus yards. I didn't think he had it in him. 6 tutties. But it's Samford. This isn't Stanford. This is Samford. This ain't even Sanford and Son. I would have taken that one better. This is Samford, FCS school. And so it was very bothersome. This is a team that was in the SoCon Conference, Southern Conference. They're 5th in the Southern Conference. We are a team that, like, when you talk about the teams that should be talked about, when you're talking about the Georgias of the world, the Alabamas of the world, your name was mentioned in those categories for a while.
Yeah.
What I've seen these last 2 weeks, it makes you say it in the same category with a smirk. Florida, right? It's not. It's not Georgia, Bama, Florida. It's Georgia, Bama, Florida, maybe.
Right.
Like Arkansas has now moved into that spot. Kentucky has moved into that spot. Hell, Tennessee has moved themselves into that spot. You are right above South Carolina, who has beat you technically, so you actually might be below them, but you got more victories. And then Vanderbilt. That's where you stand in the East as it stands right now. Mizzou is actually no. Mizzou and Vandy are below you. South Carolina is above you. I'm sorry. Let me get that straight, because we are sixth in our division, not the conference. We're sixth in the division. And that's something that, even as bad as McElwain was, even as bad as Muschamp was, guess what? Still made it to SEC championships. Still was able to muster it up, whether it was all defense and no offense, or all offense, no defense. Actually, I'm not even going to put that on the defense in that situation. Those years, it was the defense carrying us. Our offense had no clue. It's frustrating to see that as a proud Gator. Like, I'm still going to root for my boys, but it's tough to see it and to know that there is something missing there. And I just wonder, on campus, is that something where it's going to be, the rumors and the murmurs get louder and louder to where you do force a situation out? Because we know it's firing season. We had a couple more this past weekend, right? UW, Jimmy Lake gone. The boy from Southern Utah gone. So people are already starting to pole position themselves for a hot and heavy interview season coming up. So I think it's tough for me to say that it's not. I mean, you got 2 more games left to prove us that you could at least get to 7 wins and finish out this season at 7-5. But 7-5 is a huge disappointment, especially where we started at and how well we played at points in this year. It's very frustrating, and I that's why I said I started this segment out. I don't know.
It's crazy how, as you're talking, how similar it is to the A&M situation. I mean, I think obviously their season has been worse, but they didn't have the expectations that Texas A&M had coming in. But it's crazy to think, like, those coaches have have disappointed, given that they're in year 4. Isn't Mullen in year 4? Is he 3?
Year 4, yeah.
But you've got your recruiting class in there, and I do think there's a little bit of, hey man, you lost Kyle Pitts, you lost Kyle Trask, you lost
Tony.
What's Tony? You lost a lot of really, really good players. So we can see a little bit of a slide, but not this kind of slide.
Not a South Carolina slide. I'll take it. I'll take every other loss, but that South Carolina one, I can't justify. I can take the Kentucky loss easy.
Yeah,
like, that's a good squad. Mark Stoops' team is disciplined. They know who they are. They don't play out of pocket. They're not going to beat themselves.
Right.
I get that. But we saw warning signs with the USF game. And we're like, oh, Anthony Richards is going to be the difference. But then you show up to Georgia, mollywop. I get it. Georgia's an absolute beast, and we'll talk about that in a second. But once we get to South Carolina, kill yourself, right?
Yeah.
But then you follow it up with this, where, yes, 120 points were scored in this game. But the problem is Florida didn't score 100.
Right.
They scored 70 of the 120, and the other team had 50. 52 to be exact. That's gonna have a problem.
Yeah, I mean, the Florida situation is significantly worse, obviously, but there are some parallels to what's going on at A&M from a standpoint of offensive-minded coaches that are well respected, that lost some a lot of talent, and at this point in time are I think not reaching or exceeding expectations. Now, again, Mullen is obviously, he stooped to a new low with the South Carolina and this loss, and then this last week versus Samford. But similar conversations, I think, in the standpoint, not necessarily the hot seat conversation, but of what the hell's going on. How can Florida slip that far, and how can A&M slide to a 3-loss team and win 7 ball games when the expectations were so high? I think there's a similar conversation there to be had.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, I'm going to stop beating that dead horse.